Bluetooth. All right. What's happening with you? What's on your mind, man?
All right, sorry, bro. This is the first time I've been on Zoom.
It's all good. What's on your mind?
Not much, man. Just calling in from Texas. Long-time listener, Plus member. I wish I had my Green Hollow Earth shirt that I got from here. So, I don't know how it is out there in California. I know you're dealing with... Okay, and let me first go by saying I'm not a right or left wing in anything. But I know you have a lot of very liberal-minded people out in California. When you are going out a lot, are you getting a lot of I don't know if you wear a mask or if it's required out there, or what kind of flack you're getting? I mean, I was just curious about the different places. Here it's, I don't know. I'll let you say. You speak first.
Well, it's definitely required, and I wear one when I go out. Generally, if we need groceries or something, my wife is pretty accommodating about she'll go out and do it because she knows how much I don't like it. But I am not interested in getting into a confrontation with every minimum wage worker in Target who now sadly has to be a bouncer on top of just trying to do their job. It is insane that grocery store workers who probably feel very exposed right now, but they have to make this money even though it's chump change. Now they also have to police people about their masks and hear people pontificate and soapbox about I don't want to do it, and it's yes, I get it, but I again like to look like my worldview serves me, and nobody looks good when they go viral arguing about masks in a Walmart. I just don't think that that's the approach that you should have with waking people up. It's not going to happen that way, and it doesn't make any of us really look good. I definitely don't think there's a need for masks, but I'm also not one of those people who is well, I can't wear a mask. It's not good for me. It's come on, you're going in the grocery store for 30 minutes. If you don't think masks are not necessary, wear something like a bandana that is barely there. That's what I do. I wear a bandana, so it's real easy to just pop on, and it doesn't restrict my breathing. I'm fine. It definitely makes me not browse, because I am slightly I gotta get in here and just get out of here. But there are people working 8 hours a day with that thing on, sometimes in the hot sun. And so it's I'm just I don't need to have that fight with every Tom, Dick, and Harry I meet on the street, and I can suck it up for the people who are working 8 hours a day with those things on, because I'm lucky enough to work from home, and this doesn't really affect me that much. So I see everyone's point, but I'm trying to just be low friction in the world when everyone is so tense, because someone's going to get shot out there for wherever it is. So anyway, sorry, how are you feeling out there? What's your stand?
Same thing. I don't, to be honest, I hate to put myself out there like this. I think it's all a bunch of bullshit. From jump, everything about it, the whole virus, I think it's a total sham. And I could be totally wrong. I don't know shit about shit, and I believe that about everything. I'm just saying from what I've read, and I've done a lot of research since it came out. I honestly believe that it's all constructed. But anyway, and I'm the same way. I don't want to cause. I don't want to add to the fear that is already so much fear out there. Right. I don't want to add to that. And it's I don't know. It's just sad. What worries me though is that when I look at these statistics that say, if it is real that 1% of 1% of people are dying or whatever, that everyone is so quick to walk in step with what we're being told to do and give up all these rights and all these liberties. So when I look at these statistics that say, if it is real that 1% of 1% of people are dying or whatever, that everyone is so quick to walk in step with what we're being told to do and give up all these rights and all these liberties, I guess they're called. But I just don't understand how if you ask people, 90% of the people, if you say, do you think our government lies to us, they're going to say yes. And I say, well, what about, you don't think they would lie about this? And people are like, oh no, they would never lie about something like this. I mean, I just don't understand the disconnect. You know what I mean? But I don't know. It's not my place. And like you said, I don't want to cause friction. I'm done trying to wake people up. You know what I mean? It's just, I just want to get along. I just want everybody to be happy. And, you know, the whole hippie love is the answer shit is just how I'm trying to live life, you know? I mean, I'm serious. Dude. Like,
I agree. It's very important now more than ever when everyone is so polarized and so on edge. I definitely want people, you know, obviously no one's perfect, but my goal is for people to look at me and like, oh man, everybody likes that guy. He's nice to everybody. I wonder what he thinks about this. He seems pretty calm. And, you know, then I would be willing to share what I think about this kind of stuff. You know, assuming everything I said wasn't already on the internet. But if you want your worldview to serve you and you want it to look good on people. Nobody looks good, you know, like I say, standing there soapboxing about, you know, look at all these sheep. I've seen a few videos like that, and you get more flies with honey. It's not a good approach. It's not a good look. And most people are going crazy.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to speak over you.
Oh, good.
Nobody wants to be beat in the head with anything. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. What I wanted to ask you about is I don't think you've mentioned it at all, and I think it happened since your last joint session, is that the Wayfair scandal. Okay. Now, real quick.
Yeah, how about that?
What I saw, it almost seemed too perfect. Like, literally having the kids' names as the names of the items they were trying to sell, and happening the day after Maxwell was arrested. It all just seemed almost too perfect. It perfectly lined up, in mainstream media not covering it all that stuff. It just seemed like it was a too perfect conspiracy to be real. But everything I researched on it looked like it's pretty legit. And then, of course, Snopes, or whatever they're called, denied it and said, "Oh, well, we asked them and they said it wasn't true, so it's not true." And then, but it's really didn't get covered at all, and I haven't seen that much about it since those first couple of days. But what do you think? Have you done any research on it at all? Heard anything?
Well, probably just like you, I saw it, and so I'm glad you said that. I felt like it was too perfect as well, and it was going too viral also. That's the other key component. And so I was skeptical of it, but I was also like, well, I do think there is a real synergy between child trafficking, international child trafficking. Yeah. Wow. What a segue. No, but there is a link between that and retail, the global retail companies. Where are these companies? Like, you go to the mall, where are they getting their stuff made? The third world, you know, all that stuff. They have to have shipping from there to here. And we had Kate Spade, that suicide. And then her husband came out wearing that weird rescuer's mask with the red scarf, and
he had that mouse mask on, didn't he?
Yeah, it was the mouse from the Rescuers. It was basically.
Oh, okay.
But what is that movie about? It's about rescuing a kid from like some evil people. So it's like, why did he wear that mask? He was probably instructed to. It was probably like, hey, we killed Kate, and you know the deal. You know what's going on. So
show him that you know what's going on.
Yeah, come out with this mask on to let us know that business as usual will carry on tomorrow, and we don't have to come back for you.
Yeah,
I think that really happened. So it bubbled up to the surface then for sure. And then Les Wexner, Epstein's buddy, they bought a shipping route together. They bought planes together. And Les Wexner owns like half the mall. He owns Victoria's Secret, Express, Bath and Body Works. Like, he owns that big conglomerate of mall stores. So again, we have those two things so close to each other. So when I see Wayfair, which is a company that has the same access to these shipping lanes and areas, and the third world, and you know that about them, and then they're so big that something like this could easily hide within it because there's such a huge company selling so much stuff. It was a little bit on the nose, but I also read something on Reddit that kind of freaked me out, where somebody said that they worked for Wayfair in a distribution center, like a call center, and when they'd get customer service calls, they had a premium support team that would handle any purchases over 10 grand. So if someone calls, it's very, right in the handbook, page 1, if someone calls about a product and they paid more than 10 grand, they need to go to the upper tier support. Do not help that customer. So this stuff really could be hidden in plain sight, and you could definitely have a network doing that through that mechanism. But I also think it's a little bold and a little too obvious, and the way that it went viral makes me think that it was purposely thrown out there, because what is the thing they always try to do is make conspiracies look ridiculous. They'll put it in a movie and they'll say, you mean the whole world's like the Matrix, buddy? Yeah, okay, that's how it works. It's like they really do that kind of stuff. They'll put CIA MK Ultra projects and Stranger Things, and people are like, oh yeah, they made superheroes. It's just it gets really weird with that stuff. So they like to throw out things that people will attach to, and then they'll look stupid for engaging in a conversation that maybe that's real. And I think this was like one of those things. Everyone starts talking about it, and then Snopes says, which I'm sure they did a real deep dive, didn't they? They probably called me, hey, did this happen? Yeah, they had it that day. They just, real investigation there. I mean, on such a serious matter. But,
right.
Yeah,
well, their CEO is like a Federal Reserve, not the chairman, but on some Federal Reserve board too, I heard.
Okay, that's going to make me skeptical. For sure. That's going to make me skeptical that maybe there's some truth to it.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, man. I just think I've been looking up all this stuff about, like the Hollywood elite and all the different, I don't believe any of the QAnon shit. I think that's the total fucking savior complex. Get that shit out of here. But no offense to anybody that loves it, but I can't listen to it. I mean, I'm not going to wait for somebody to come save the day. You know what I mean? I don't, we're the ones that are going to have to change it. And that's why I go back to what I said about it's scaring me that everybody's so lock in step with everything that's what we're being told, because I don't know if it's going to get any better, Greg. And I don't think it is. And this is the first time in my life where I've honestly, I've always been into conspiracies and into stuff like that, and actually researching them, not just, I listen to your podcast. Actually, your podcast is the only one I have ever paid for, so kudos to that. But
thank you.
Yeah, man, it's great. But I just don't think it's going to get any better, man. I think we've kind of we hit the tipping point. You know what I mean? Where I don't think that if something was going to change, it would have already happened. I mean, I'm not going to take the vaccine, and I'm sure some people aren't going to, but I don't even think that matters at this point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I worry that you might be right. I think it matters. I mean, I'm not going to be taking it either, but I don't know what the consequences of not taking it could be. They could be pretty severe. You might not be able to go to a grocery store.
It's going to matter individually for us. I'm saying I don't think it's going to matter as far as if that's going to change anything on a global, on a large scale. I think that they have their cups in, and it's not going to they're not going to let go. I think once they saw that everybody, after the first lockdown, everybody just kind of coalesced that was it. They were like, we got these people. It doesn't matter. Or we got the majority number that we need.
Yeah. I was so worried about how quickly people just followed the orders. And I said very early on, one of my tweets out there back in March is, once everyone's inside, when is a virus gone? Because honestly, what we know about conventional medicine, even if you believe the official paradigm, is AIDS isn't gone. Things aren't gone. They might get under control from a conventional perspective, but we still think those things exist. You can look up, there are Black Deaths. People who die of the Black Plague still every few years. There's a couple. Things.
There was a case in Texas earlier this year. Yeah.
What if we locked something down? For a virus, it's so does it have to be 50% gone, 80% gone? It just doesn't even make sense. It was a scary precedent to set from the beginning, and then once they got us all inside, it has been hell trying to get things back. And
go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. I'm here all the time.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I like to listen more than I like to talk. I just don't want to hang up and be like, oh shit, there was something I wanted to tell him. But what was I gonna say? the best I've heard it put as far as the whole mask thing is that because in Texas, like I go into the store, I have literally a ripped off shirt sleeve, a t-shirt sleeve that I just kind of wear around my neck and I just slide it up when I need it. And but the best I've heard it put is you can use anything for a mask because it's not about health, it's about compliance. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Man, so true and so fucking sad at the same time.
I've seen it too, and I fully agree with you. And I also think that that's why if you're not really afraid of it, it doesn't matter for your own sanity what you're putting on. And so it should be easier to halfway comply enough to just get you through the day without a bunch of roadblocks. It goes back to some of those shows that I've done with people who are all concerned with the straw man or the corporation that is, when you're born, they fill out the birth certificate and it creates a corporation version of you. And then your driver's license is in all caps, and that's the corporate version, and you represent that. There's those people who are obsessed with that kind of perspective. But then, you talk to them and they're like, oh yeah, my car got impounded because I got pulled over and I don't do a driver's license and I don't give anyone my home address. I don't sign tickets. I don't represent that corporation. And yeah, they locked me up for 2 weeks. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, wait, what? Like this, so this doesn't serve you. What is good about that? So like, yeah, I guess I'm a real bitch because I got a driver's license and I've just, been cut through the system. But
I get it. I'm the same way, and I've deep dove into all those conspiracies, and I've gotten obsessed with every single one of them. I have a real obsessive personality, and the only thing I didn't get obsessed with is QAnon and Flat Earth. I just couldn't do it. I tried. But I am super obsessed with Hollow Earth, man. I wish you did more shows. Like, Harry Hubbard, Agnew, and even though I don't believe in any of the stuff that Brooks Agnew says as far as his politics, I'm into his Hollow Earth shit. And I don't want to change the subject, but just real quick, Joseph Farrell, by far my favorite guest. I think he's amazing. I love his stuff, and it's nice to have that educated at Oxford byline when you're talking about the stuff that we talk about. You know what I mean? People really give him too much shit.
Yes, when he was on the Conspiracy Farm, they kept throwing that out. I listened to their interview with him, and they definitely kept throwing out, oh, it's really great to hear confirmed from an Oxford scholar, these things we're saying. And it really is good to have that. It's like conventional people, they want to believe people with credentials. They're looking for credentials. Well, here you go. Like, I've interviewed some doctors, some people with PhDs who don't even think the viruses make us sick. So it's like the idea that there's only one idea is so backwards. Like, how can you police the internet to get rid of anything that disagrees with the CDC when some of these people are PhD doctors or people who worked at the CDC and have a different opinion? Like, we can never go to a mono opinion on anything. That's scary territory.
That's why I said I don't know shit about shit, because every time the old adage that the more you learn you don't know anything. But it's like I'm always open to have my mind changed. That's why I like shows like yours, because I like that you give your guests, let them tell their opinion too, and not try to force or fit your opinion into it. You know what I mean? You let them talk, and then you I don't hear you having your view changed in a good or a bad way. I'm just saying, but you allow them to give their part. Dude, real quick, sorry, just don't forget. Whatever happened to that Cracker Jack Don Marshall? Was that his name?
Oh yeah, Donald Marshall.
Whatever happened to him? Is he?
I haven't, but he kind of, he harassed me, not in a serious way, but he kind of harassed me online for a long time after that interview. Fuck you. It's just, he was like,
I thought you were pretty nice to him.
Yeah, so I think he got a little drunk during that interview. He definitely probably had second thoughts about some of the stuff he said, because he was like, so now it's all coming back to me. He did say, he'd come back to me a week later, like, oh, they tortured me at the cloning center. They said, don't let that interview go out or I'm going to get tortured more. And I'm like, dude, it's already in the pipeline, man. I'm like, what if it was live? If it was live, it'd be out there. I was like, so we need to just, pretend it was live. Like, I was like, maybe I already did put it up, but it was like right in that window, and it was just like, man, I think you're full of shit, and you're just not happy with what you said. And then he just, for months on end, was like going to every word of the interview and then typing a response, and like
he would beaver shit bonkers, dude.
Right.
Like, he was control.
You agreed to talk to me. You know, he approached me. He had a representative who approached me, and I was like, yes, I've heard his previous interviews. I'll do it. And I don't know if he's done many since, but
I haven't heard anything about him. That's why I asked.
I also thought nothing he said on my show was abnormal from what he'd said in previous interviews. It was just like, you know, if what's going to get you tortured that you said here that you haven't already said? You just said it here. All the things he'd said in previous interviews, I tried to bring it all together in one interview, but he didn't drop anything new.
And if it's his clone getting tortured, who cares, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the big deal, dude? It's just a clone.
Right. That's what you're there for.
Seriously, exactly. My clones do all my grocery shopping. They wear the mask. They get the torture, all that, you know. But, I'm gonna let some other people get in. I appreciate it, bro. I love your podcast. Love your work. Hopefully, I'll come to San Diego. We can puff down one day.
For sure. It's good talking to you, man.
All right, brother. Thank you, man.
Peace.
Peace.
Yeah, I'm very much on his page with a lot of stuff. Liking the Hollow Earth, not getting into QAnon. He's a cool guy. And I do hope people are patient with me when it comes to guest selection and them maybe not liking a guest here or there. I had Angela J. Davis on, and some people went quite nuts and was like, I'm sick of this liberal trash. And it's like, whoa, I tried to be, at least, I can't control what someone else says, but I was trying to be pretty nonpartisan and ask questions on behalf of more conservative viewpoints. And the other thing that bothers me about that is, well, what about when we have James Corbett, who would definitely be on the right, or Joseph Farrell, who definitely thinks more on the right. You know, Walter Bosley has been on several times. I think the majority of my guests think from the right. I don't, but it doesn't really matter. I also like to structure the Higherside Chats in a way that it doesn't matter what I think, really. Yes, I choose the guests, but as long as we agree that you like, or you're entertained by the same people I'm entertained by, that's really the only thing that matters. A lot of people get skeptical about the logos I've used and stuff like that, and it's like, this is just an artist who did this because I needed something to put on a grinder and it was circular. And I wanted it to be, it's kind of a parody of Masonry. You think a Freemason is going to be happy that I replaced the Grand Architect with my show, or that it says 420 on the clock, or that there's aliens here and pyramids here, or there's a giant archonic beast behind it? You think any Masons happy about that? So it's just a little silly sometimes. And I think you guys are spending way too much time trying to like find something on me, and it's like I'm just almost in the audience with you guys listening to good guests. I like to let them do 80% of the talking. All I'm trying to do is get them to their most interesting material and get through it. And the only thing I think about is that the 1 and 2 hour break comes to a full, like we try to wrap up one idea before cutting to the plus show, but I'm not really managing what they say, and I'm just picking people I think are interesting. Not even that I always agree with. I just want to make sure we can look back in the archives and say there's no holes in our game. Yes, we looked at systematic injustice in the justice system against people of color. That's not controversial. It's not Black Lives Matter. It's not a political thing. We tried to, at least I tried to leave that to the side. That's based on something that's quite real that lasted a long time. So it was there way before Black Lives Matter as a movement was there. And I also think it's weird that conspiracy shows don't want to talk about systematic injustice like that. It's like, that's a good example of the fact that they don't care about any of us, right? Isn't it? The stuff they do to people of color that they're allowed to do because they know other people aren't going to raise a fuss, or the things they do to people in the Middle East or the Third World or in any of the U.S. territories, and the show we did about that, like they are way shittier to people who don't have advocates, you know. And the last thing they want us to do is stick up for other groups of people, right? Because they want to continue to test vaccines in Africa unless we say, hey, you know, that's fucked up because they're people too. That's really messed up. You would do that. You know, I don't know why some conservative listeners decided they couldn't handle me anymore because they've listened for years and I did one show that they didn't like on that subject. It's like, I just felt like we needed to do it so I could look in the archives and not feel like I was silent on something that I think is important. It's not the new direction of the show. I heard that, you know. But anyway, again, I'm rambling. We got people here. We got Glow Wonders, a real staple of the joint session.